I don't need to. Okay, so today is September 9th. This is the meeting of the Littleton Station Committee.
Our second meeting.
Okay, our second meeting, yes, and we assume Chuck is joining us, as I heard last he was going to. So, okay, so we have maps, and we were going to decide what.
We're gonna look at the maps.
Yeah.
And kind of look at some of the iterations that we have that show maximum build out and kind of decide how dense we want to get it, that's something that we think will pass town meeting.
Right.
Maybe do it in bites.
And kind of I think, didn't we talk about focusing more on around the Littleton Station last meeting, since we have interest there and.
Right, that's what started this whole thing.
Okay, so. Just pulling up. All right, should we walk over and look at the map? Or what are we gonna?
Kind of look around at it and maybe see it here.
There you go. I'll just do a quick description of what we have. This was the end result of the Littleton Station area study, where the consultants put large blocks on here for, where they were recommending different things happen based on what the input that they heard from residents through the public outreach process, including the survey. There weren't, probably 30 meetings, 30 residents that were involved in the public meetings for this that were held in the spring of 2019. But then the larger group of people participated through the surveys that were done. And so all of that information was distilled into this recommendation. One way to start the discussion tonight would be just to hear from you the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats for the area. That might be one way to frame the discussion. What do you like? What are the strengths? What are the weaknesses? What do we want to make sure we avoid unintended consequences? Opportunities, things like working with the developers that we know are interested in talking, and threats, what could I was going to say derail the process, but yeah. So I didn't know if you wanted.
Well, yeah, and I mean, certainly Judy Barrett identified a lot of that in the report. I mean, to me, the major challenge I think we're going to encounter are just residents.
So the density that you're going to be giving people out there, the traffic.
I think traffic on Foster Street is a real problem. It's narrow. It's already problematic with commuters like going 50 to get to their train. And if we put a bunch more development on that end of it, people are definitely going to cut through town to get to it. But I'm not sure there's anything we can do. I mean, I know we're working on the first half of that up to the Harwood intersection this year or early next year.
Right. Well, the benefit is that we do have the improvements to Foster Street that are funded, state funded, going from Taylor Street up to Balsam Lane, which goes all the way past the commuter rail station. So that construction work is scheduled for 2022.
I think it's 2023 with the hope that the design is ahead, so we can bump ahead into 2020.
And that's going to be like wider lanes and sidewalks and
wider lanes and a 10-foot path, multi-use path off to the side.
Cool.
So that's bike and pedestrian over there.
So maybe early on, we should engage the owner of the assisted living, the nursing home. We should get him involved with it, find out his interest in a connection through there and a rezone of the rest of his property. Maybe he wants to put some sort of independent living right next to his assisted living. And before we get too far along and we start showing people these maps with the cut through going there, we need to reach out to him and find out right off the bat if that's something he's we'll buy into if he's interested in it.
Yeah, because what if he says no?
Then
How
we'll
much,
show-
because he owns,
He owns that little yellow section there.
So you're talking about like to this property line here over?
I don't know if
The
it's
top-
that
He's
close.
here.
yellow section?
he's
Yeah.
here.
He's there.
Yeah, so that's
Oh,
where-
that's his, okay, so that's it right there. So this, it'd be the orange area. Okay,
Right, so that might be a perfect location to put independent living.
right.
Right next to his
Little cottages and yeah. So
So
who is the owner?
I'm sure we know who he is now because of all the issues with
Yeah.
COVID out there. Maybe we can send him a letter, tell him what our ideas are and engage and see if he's, will respond back or his lawyers will respond back if it's something they're interested in. There's only change out there.
Yeah, I mean, I wonder if he even has any, if he even knows that we're looking at this. You know, I mean, some of the guys, remember there was that Indian gentleman who came early on, he was down in there, but. So Joe, who is the owner?
We can look it up on the.
Oh, okay.
assessing
Is it an individual or is it a
I believe
corporation?
it's corporation.
They have
Oh,
several
it is a
other,
corporation.
they have
You're
several
right.
other
You're
life
right.
care centers in other parts.
Yes,
So they,
you're right.
they have one in, I think, Seattle too.
And that
Yeah.
was also a big problem.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So how do we go about reaching out? Does the town reach out? Does the
Yeah,
planning?
we'll send him-
I mean, I know that Cindy has been in touch with them recently because they wanted to talk to us about what happened during COVID.
Okay,
So, and I know she can make contact with them to talk about this if they want.
okay.
They were very keen to like engage with us and we aren't exactly sure why. But
They need to do some serious damage.
I think that's part of
Right.
it's covered in that.
So this might be a good way to get in. Start showing this map if we're not gonna be able to do that cut. So that's cut to the critical.
Yeah, yeah,
Well, also, I mean, it's not, would allow for, say, some assisted or even, independent just south of that. Where, even if it was just to grant a, emergency access easement, because if you're dealing with common ownership, down here, this is a lot to come out at one access point, even if you're like, okay, well, we're gonna do it as, boulevard type entrance, make sure we have enough capacity. Fire and police are always concerned what happens if there's something that happens in the entrance, can we come in a different way, even if it was just to negotiate a emergency access only, to come down and across that field.
When you say the cut through, you mean that horseshoe on the top that goes from off of?
It's the connection.
Yeah,
Okay, other than that, it's not that way now.
Oh, I know it isn't. Yeah, no,
Right,
yeah,
that access drive and then
That's what it
some
is.
sort of connection to the adjacent.
got it.
So
so should I reach out to Cindy and get the person's name? Joe, do you want to do that? What's the normal process?
Talk to Cindy almost every single morning
Okay,
when I commute in, so I'll raise this as far as like we'd like to reach out and just to try to see where that connection point is.
Okay.
Who she's then dealing with will probably be someone else then, we're probably on the corporate real estate side,
Right,
but at least we could start digging.
okay.
To look for that.
Yeah, because without that answer, we really can't.
you're gonna really
Yeah.
emphasize that if you can.
And if we could tell the people on Foster Street, look, we're looking at an access road behind, that would make them much happier.
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay, so Joe, that's in your report? Okay.
So then, as we look at the map, everyone can kind of see what the train track is, right? Do we stop there, or do we go to 495, to Taylor Street?
Well, where is Robert Long's? His is,
His end's right.
that's
right at
all
the train
his.
tracks.
No, yeah, hold
I'll get through there.
And then who owns across the street again?
That's,
No, on the other side, across, who owns this in here again? I can't remember. Is this the stone? What is this?
yeah.
Stone
Stone
Yard?
Yard is right here.
Okay.
And then these are open parcels.
And do we know who owns these?
It's Stone Road.
Is this all?
Concord, it's the same.
Concord Property Management, is that
Yeah.
what Stanley? Still on that?
Yeah.
So do we know if what their thoughts are on this? Have they expressed any interest in what the town's doing?
They have not.
So Should probably reach out to them as
I
well.
would venture to guess that anybody that's in that area that has the potential of putting a higher density than out there might be interested.
Wouldn't you think? Yeah, yeah,
I would say that's probably.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So for this, and obviously, do we want to stop where Route 2 is? Do we want to stop it there, or do we want to keep going?
So, and then I had pointed over here because, same developer owns this that developed, 38 and K.
And
We'd
where's,
be very interested in.
where's
working with the
Nordblom, where's that site going again? Nordblom?
That's,
Northern
that one is now
that's-
owned by the moms.
Oh, it is?
Yeah.
Oh,
That's called the Northern site.
Yeah, it was owned by Northland Company for a very long time.
okay.
And
And
just,
where, remember that apartment, those people that came in and were talking about putting in apartments? Where was that again?
Terrace. It's right, down here,
Okay,
most of this.
so,
That's too far. You gotta crucify yourself if you go all the way.
Oh, really?
Don't you think so? We're talking the big A word here. We haven't talked apartments in town of Littleton ever.
right, right.
So now, yeah,
But if they've already expressed an interest,
well, no, sure, everybody in that little thing would be interested.
Yeah.
They can knock it down those buildings.
so is your thought that we should just go to the town with just the section around the train station first, kind of get them comfortable with that, and then,
Then go more.
okay.
Don't you think it makes sense to do it
Yeah.
like Judy said, in little bites?
Yeah, yeah,
Because if you do that whole thing,
Yeah.
I don't think,
people will freak out.
we're talking 5,000 units over there.
Yeah.
Wasn't that the number?
I don't think it was that number.
It was high.
Yeah, but it
It was
potentially could be
2,000.
very high.
You want to count these little square line?
No,
What do you think, Lauren?
I agree that taking a bite first would be a good idea. I hate to pass on, the interest in the Gutierrez parcel, but there's so much family angst in that parcel, of ownership of that parcel.
A year or two isn't gonna make a difference.
It's not, okay,
No.
okay, okay.
And plus, Gutierrez only has an option on it. It's the Sweeties that are still fighting.
Oh, yeah, God, I forgot. Yeah,
Yeah.
okay, you're right, yeah,
So that'll be probably
You're
a
right,
couple years.
you're right,
So-
okay, yeah.
Trust me, they're not building an office building anytime soon.
Yeah,
They'll be waiting for us.
okay,
It's just
The
sort
only
of,
issue is the digital building's going down. Well, not over there, the one's coming down Foster Street,
oh, yeah,
if you want to think about those.
Those are getting demolished.
no,
No,
This-
but
right. They are extremely underutilized. The owner of this, building.
That's the
came
Indian
to-
gentleman.
Right, came to the meeting.
Yes.
He's always excited about what he can do.
yes,
He's offered, if the town can put a, spur walkway from the multi-use path over to his parking lot, he'd be happy to, sublease inexpensive, additional parking.
Because people could commute on the train and walk to work.
Mhm.
Yeah, or, park here and then
Oh.
walk to the train station. Just for reference, this is the office building that isn't anymore, that's been taken down, and this is where the warehouse is
Mhm.
being built.
Amazon's going
Mhm.
And
no,
this-
Amazon's further down, right?
well, Amazon would take over this warehouse, and they would purchase this property at 153 Taylor Street, take that building down, redo the parking area, and have their last mile
would be
delivery.
all right there.
Oh, I was thought it was further down. To take out the building that's already been knocked down.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah, the warehouse that you
Yeah.
recently approved.
Yeah,
Right.
the second time.
And then, right.
The second time.
And now
When they
they're
showed us
coming
pretty
back in.
pictures and everything, yeah, okay.
Where is the Harvest Club going?
It's Club there, let's see, Monarch Drive.
Are they on the other side of Route 2?
What's the Harvest Club? What's
It's
that?
the new grow facility, the cannabis grow.
Oh, I didn't know we're getting another one.
Yeah. Is it off that map, maybe? I thought it was, for some reason, I thought it was on the same side of Route 2 as Amazon, but.
It comes in off of Monarch Drive.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, yeah. All right.
So it's over there, so it's out of, so we really don't have to,
I'm talking about being
Well,
bad.
Monarch Drive is,
I was just wondering, because I know that like Sanctuary, there's some issues with odors and stuff, and people have complained. But if
where's
they're-
Sanctuary there?
this
Yeah.
side.
Yeah, okay, but they're really close to,
So I was wondering, what-
There's nobody down there.
Yeah.
it's a
That's a
perfect
great
place.
spot for it,
Yeah.
actually.
Yeah, Yeah.
All right, so getting back to our other document, so, yeah, so we get in touch with the landowner, see if he's interested. So,
Yeah, like maybe four landowners, if you only work around your rail station, the nursing home, the care facility, the North Bloom / Long parcel,
Right,
Concord Properties, or whoever owns the,
right.
right, and then if, I keep pointing, and I keep asking if you want to also work with, Guthrie across for up Grimes Lane.
But isn't that already all developed?
the field isn't, but the only problem with that, Lauren, is
Oh, that isn't developed, okay.
the adequacy of Grimes Lane. It's a real problem as it is now. We have apartment complexes and stuff. It's marginal at best there.
But there's no infrastructure on the other parcels.
What do you mean?
On the Long property, there's no
No, but
roadway
the
there,
road-
he would build it.
They would have to, yeah, but they put a subdivision roadway, and that's not a subdivision roadway. It's only 10 feet wide.
There's no roadway.
We didn't make him do it for everything else, so.
But if he wants to do apartments. we
Or,
could say-
or maybe that's the area for the step down, for the townhouses.
Right.
But anyway,
Something
it
big.
still has to do something with Grimes Lane, and that's gonna screw up the house.
No, Grimes Lane's gonna get slid over when Foster Street is reconstructed. Not relocated, but slid over,
Like slid down towards the
Sure.
train tracks,
away from the train tracks.
away from the train tracks.
Right where the house is.
Oh.
Not right where the house is, it'll go closer to the house.
Well, be enough room from two Grimes Lane, only leave the house where it is. Not the talk was to move the house.
Yeah, right, they can't move it that far because there's a wetlands complex in the
Okay.
way, so. Yeah. And anyway, I keep pointing to Guthrie because, there was always the talk about also having a soccer field or something over there, so. Yeah, now's the time to talk, we're looking for recreation fields.
You know, and we could talk to Mr. Long about that.
But,
Talk to
But do
Long.
we really want to put I don't think we want to put a soccer field over on the Long property area. That's where we want to put multi-use.
Yeah, but there's still some area there we could put it up on the front part of the field. The houses are already gonna
that's
go.
something we'll have about.
Yeah.
We know how you feel
Anyway.
about them. Okay,
So, so either 3 or 4 property owners to talk with. For
I mean, it
that
certainly
area.
doesn't do us any harm in talking to
No,
Guthrie,
no.
and let him know what's going on. And
Who owns the MBTA station in the parking lot?
Yeah, MBTA.
Okay, and do they just literally own just that bit and nothing more?
Northern sold it to Northern Development, sold it to, so he owns it.
And what about on the other side of the train tracks, like the A Crane Company and those
That's
industrial?
all Concord, that's all
Yeah.
Concord property.
Concord properties,
Yeah.
from there to Route 2?
Right.
Okay. Why is that mixed use thing the shape that it is? Is it just adjacent to the train station? Is that why it's there?
Yeah.
Is that it?
Yeah, that's what, we had envisioned was multi-use there.
So have a little bit of shops. and-
Yeah, like a coffee place and,
Yeah, I guess, and thinking about the sketch that belongs provided, that's got commercial use up in front.
Right.
You're not gonna get a lot of commercial now, you're just gonna get some ancillary stuff.
Yeah.
Initially, yeah.
For commuters.
Yeah. Maybe the people in there, maybe a little convenience store.
Yeah.
But they would stop.
Yeah,
They hand
Like a
presses and dry
sandwich
cleaners.
or-
That's, I don't think you would see that, Chris would have trouble with it. Point everywhere else.
right.
I don't think so right down there.
Because someday there won't be a pandemic.
Really?
I don't know.
But they may
So-
not be in businesses once the pandemic's over.
This is true.
Do we have anybody watching this, or we still?
No, it's still
No,
just
no.
us.
It's just us, okay. Should buy beers.
You could light up a cigar.
No, you can't.
No, I know.
If we, so if we went to the town with just the things, let's say, north of Route 2,
Yeah.
how much of that would be a change of use from what it is now?
Complete rezone.
Yeah, it's all
Completely
industrial right
Oh,
now.
yeah.
Is it even industrial up near the Life Center?
No, I think Life Center is residential.
Okay, so that doesn't require any kind of, or would that require a change?
Right, if you're going to allow anything other than single family.
Oh, that's, yeah, duh, okay, okay.
Yeah, so we're looking at total overlay for that.
Right, yeah.
Let's say from Route 2, that way.
Mhm.
Makes it easier.
Okay, so we're gonna contact Life Center. What about Concord?
Concord Property Management?
Yeah, do we know who they are?
Yeah, we'll find out the ownership
Okay.
and the contact.
And start discussions
It
there.
used to be Dave Wood Stanley. I'm assuming it's probably still in those kids. That's fine.
What about the, since we know we're gonna get pushback from the residences, or from the residents, do we know anybody who lives there who might be helpful?
Ted Doucette lives right up there, doesn't he?
My cousins live right up there. I don't think they're gonna be very helpful.
I think Ted lives in one of these houses right here.
Okay,
I'm sure he'd have an opinion about it.
yes, I'm sure, yeah. So again, going back to hopefully if we can get the Life Center on board, then we can dilute some of that opposition. Do we see any value in engaging the public now? Since, I mean, we've done the survey, we've released the results, but we really haven't done any additional follow-up.
Right, but that's some policy decisions need to be made.
But
And I think that's-
no, before we need a package. before we
Right.
show.
Yeah, okay.
Right. Gather the input and distill it, and now you're gonna make a recommendation.
And then you have it open to public, and the planning board gets it,
Okay,
open up to public meetings, and then they can talk.
okay.
And they will.
Oh, yeah.
Good. There's another question there.
Did we ever, we've obviously talked to the state about something with the ramps, but we've never got anywhere, right?
No.
The ramps, I mean, you look at them, they're so tantalizing right there, there's no way to tap on those ramps and take some of the traffic away.
Not for a reasonable amount of money.
What's reasonable?
The estimate 20 years ago was like $32 million.
Come on, I could build a road out there for $1 million.
That was insane.
You couldn't go fast enough, but you could get there.
There you go.
And what about anything with, well, okay, we talked last time about the interest in this site and in Littleton by the governor, by, you know, other people within the state. It's too premature to really be discussing any of that because we don't have a plan yet?
Yeah.
Okay,
You know, one of the things, especially, you know, identifying some of the options from zoning, let's just say the 40R, which then, you know, you're coming in, you know, 20 units per acre. And if you decided, I'm just gonna come on the other side here. If you wanted to have here as higher density and then here even like condos, sort of like what is shown here, if you want to then have that, because that then or doesn't come in at 16 units or 15 units per acre when it's attached condos. It's a step down.
Yeah.
Versus it's 8 for if you were going to do single family. You know, once you identify your density and especially having someone on board, and you're able to start calculating what the private investment is and then what's needed, that's when it makes it easier to go for mass works as well as housing choice to say, well, we need to do pedestrian improvements or we need to, let's say we had to bring sewer down to connect. That makes it a lot easier to then make those applications because they're really looking at funding projects that really leverage private investment.
right.
And this would hit every single goal of the administration as far as transit-oriented development, being able to be on transportation corridors and provide diversity of housing options.
Multifamily, 20 units per acre. You know, you pick one area, you know, couple of small areas within the big district that you want to where you want to allow that. The next step down is townhouses at 12 units per acre.
Right.
Look, there's one more.
What about like independently assisted, that's not, you're not even addressing that, or we just gonna use the other bylaw for that one?
We can make sure that we're not excluding them, so yeah, or if we certainly can. Especially near the
Yeah, the life
life
center.
care center.
Yeah, yeah.
How do we decide what, what's the balance between like what someone wants to build versus what the town will stand for density? I mean,
That's kind of what.
I know, but I mean, how do you figure that out? I mean, like, in your experience, is there some number that above which people freak out, or is it anything above 1 acre zoning that's like off the table? Yeah.
That's the way it used to
I
be.
think a lot of the work that we've done recently, with master plan and
Yeah.
forward, people understand this is one area of the town that we're really
Yeah.
looking for.
We
dense
have
development.
encountered very little resistance. Resistance has been from the people who live on Foster for obvious reasons. But I think, like Maren said, the survey and also the meetings that we had with the town, people were definitely in favor of this and excited about it, because I think people recognize that we need to increase the diversity of our housing stock. So I don't anticipate any issues there. Do you, Mark?
I don't think you have a problem with the concept of what we're trying to do.
Yeah.
When the rubber meets the road, I think you have a problem.
Right, 2/3 vote at town meeting is not difficult.
Yeah.
If we get through the first time, then.
Yeah.
That's wonderful. If we don't, you hear the feedback, you tweak and
Right.
try to go.
That's why you have to vet it out publicly and find out where everything's coming from.
Right.
And make sure they all come out, not just at town meeting like the George Sanders and the
Right.
Jerry Pitola.
Well, people were interested. I mean, when you think about how much input we got, people were very interested in it. So,
Right. Things that help you get over the finish line, design guidelines, what's it gonna look like?
Right.
How tall can the buildings be and where can it be on the site? And
which we can have that all
what it
written
look
in. We don't have to do form-based code. We can just do design guidelines.
like. Right, it'll
Yeah.
cost us,
Well, that's
Some to get-
restrictions and.
right, design guidelines
The
drafted for.
big thing for this is gonna be if you're gonna do it and do it for seniors and get an amenity center up there and get all the little bells and whistles that we're trying to get up here with it, that's the
That's gonna
time to
help.
go for it all.
Yeah,
To go, and put everything in the box.
Right.
Okay.
And then the other consideration to roll into it is transfer of development rights. If you can get a developer to set aside 20 acres of farmland, for example, or forest land.
Right.
Somewhere else and be able to get 20 more units at this site, then you have to start thinking about, well, maybe the open space people would also be on board.
right.
You're gonna get some serious, I've already been getting the emails from
Yeah, no.
Jeremy Hines.
From who?
It certainly,
Jamie Cruz about
it
this
certainly
transfer.
wouldn't be a tool that she would want to use for herself.
Which
What's
is
she,
fine.
what's she concerned about?
She thinks transfer of development rights is, the problem is it might be good for some people, but what happens is the next generation's tied to that. And they don't understand it. So, and that's what her big fear is. Right now, you're a grown up, you might want to read what you're signing before you sign away your rights. Her fear is people are going to be ignorant about it and find out that once they've transferred away, it's gone forever. Well, that's what this is all about.
Yeah.
So she's not why she's been blasting you too.
No. we've
I've
got
been
it.
getting emails.
Yeah.
I've got a bunch of them from her. She's not gonna go quietly either.
Jamie doesn't do anything quietly.
No. But the timeline for considering transfer of development rights is, would be for spring town meeting as well. So by then we know if it's a.
So you would come to the town with a specific like swap in place for transfer of development rights? Saying like, we want to do this for this, and the town has to
No, it's
approve
not.
it?
No,
They're
just
separate.
right.
We need to keep them separate.
Right.
It's like a bank account.
It's like
Yeah.
another zoning tool in the toolbox.
Yeah.
If a developer chose to use it, they
But
could.
say if Danny Pickett wanted to sell all the development rights to all his farm. He'd be one that would consider, because him and the Mathesons, thank God, they're farmers from way back.
Yeah.
They never talk about selling it.
Yeah,
He would sell X amount of acres for, what's like, 16,000 an acre or something. It's not a lot of money, but.
Yeah, just sell the development rights.
It's development rights, which means he can never break it up and put houses there, but he can farm it in perpetuity, he owns it, it doesn't change his ownership of it.
Yeah.
It's just a conservation restriction put on it.
oh, when you said springtime, you mean actually getting transfer of development rights approved by the town?
Right.
Yeah, okay.
I don't think as long as that the way out this.
But we're not gonna link the two.
No, not to.
No.
Yeah, I don't wanna do,
I just
yeah.
misunderstood. I thought you were saying we should bring some proposal to the town of a transfer.
No, we already
That's-
had that one working.
Okay,
Right, yeah,
It's pretty
that's the
much
beauty of
on
that, if the transfer development right gets approved, as a zoning bylaw, then the developers and the property owners, they go back and they negotiate.
They go in the back room and they make a deal and whatever they decide, we don't care. As long as the transfer happens.
but we approve it.
Well,
Right.
sort of, yeah, we have to actually.
Yeah,
stamp it.
yeah, but I mean, if someone's like, I'm gonna sell 100 acres for $10 so this guy can build
Yeah.
1,000 apartments, we're gonna say no.
Well, the guy out there's gonna say.
Yeah.
Well,
We
yeah,
don't-
They're
yeah.
gonna get more than.
what if they're
Yeah,
weeds?
it's what the market will bear, is what it really is. There's a guideline for it, but it's.
Right, well-
Yeah, but anyway, that,
If they're in cahoots, so then the town gets open space set aside and more development in areas that we've said we want development.
Yeah, so, fine.
but we're not gonna link it to, we're gonna, it'll be there.
Mhm.
And-
To use if we need to, yeah.
I understand, yeah.
Well, I think one of the things that will help us though too is the fact that, I know that the Affordable Housing Trust is really interested in that area in the long property, so I think that's
I don't,
helpful.
yeah, we're interested, but I don't think we're gonna do much as far as way money goes. I think we're gonna try to push them towards,
Right,
and I think they have. Cindy and I talked about it. I think the ones have already reached out to Mass Housing and have talked to them about funding and things like that. I think they're well on their way trying to get inroads with Mass Housing, because they're, Robert's, I guess, well, involved with the state, with all the, he's a big time commercial builder, so I think he knows everybody and anybody. When Cindy told me that she reached out to him, that he had already talked to Mass Housing.
that's great, yeah.
So I think he.
Mass housing as far as just
I think
like,
Mass Housing
Fine.
Partnership.
Yeah, man.
oh, okay.
Whatever, Mass Housing, yeah.
Okay.
About money for it and affordability and all that. I don't know how far it is. I just know Cindy said that he had talked to Mass Housing.
I was just curious as far as whether he was considering trying to do some sort of lift around the 40B versus.
No, I think he's waiting to see what we want. I don't think he wants to do that, but I think
Okay.
he's looking for funding and financing.
Yeah.
And,
Okay.
you know,
Would something like 40B be part of this? Could it be?
it could be, but I think we're trying to do it so that it doesn't have to be.
Yeah.
And that's what our kind of goal is.
Right, for 40B circumvent zoning, when you're drafting the zoning, you're trying to get the developments. in a
Right.
certain
The
way.
way we want it.
Yeah.
Well, not a 40B, but this would be a
Well,
40R.
Yeah.
Well, and now, so we get to the,
Yeah,
one of the big policy questions. It doesn't matter a lot in the results, but it does matter in the process, is 40R or major special permit.
I think you need a major special permit, because people are gonna want to make sure that people are overseeing what's going on with it. It's not a by right kind of thing like a 40B. Not that I'm saying a 40R is gonna be the same, but it should be a major, but don't you think it should be a major special permit?
Well,
that gives us more control, right? Yeah,
Right.
which we want that.
right, but you're giving up the funding that's associated with 40R.
Oh,
Never
yeah,
know. This thing should be able to, they should be able to get funding. Something this dense and what we're doing here, whether it's the state or
And
it's
this is why we
private.
have both the selectmen and the planning board in.
yeah, and
This
the
discussion
fact that we
because-
know because it's a train station,
Mhm.
it's really
There's
busy.
gonna be funding for this.
So is it, so could a developer go to the state outside of 40R and get funding?
I think you could.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think the main issue is really about the 40S payments that go with 40R. So that there's contributions that the state is adding in to the revenue that's generated from those units. for educational purposes. They establish a minimum, or what they recognize as sort of like the minimum density that then would qualify, and that's what the 40S payments are based off.
So the benefit to a special permit would be that the town has more control. Are there any other
Well,
benefits?
it's gonna be site specific, and 40R can go anywhere.
Okay,
If we do it there, what's to stop them from going anywhere?
No, 40, you establish a 40R district. And the
So
40R sub-districts, that's where we were talking about the 20 units per acre, the 12 units per
Okay.
acre.
So that's where imagine this was actually your zoning proposal. This would be high density 40R. This could be a medium density and lower density 40R. It still all goes through town meeting process. You know, it's an overlay district. You can have special design guidelines for each type of housing type. You can limit the number of stories. You can identify amenities and exactly what you want so that when you're getting, and they still have to do, it may not be a master special permit, but they still have to provide a master plan as far as how they're meeting the design guidelines. So if you're able to be pretty specific as far as here's the type of architecture, type of materials, here's what we want for roadway profiles, sidewalks, amenities, you can almost pre-populate a lot of those things. So you take away some of the risk and you end up knowing through the density what essentially you're going to be getting rather than like 40B. You don't know what you're going to get.
so then why wouldn't we do 40R then and get money? I mean, I know you said there's gonna be plenty of funding, but heck, if it's guaranteed and we can write those things in.
That's a good question. I think we need to kind of explore it a little more.
The main thing is that the special permit, because there's a level of discretion, you can maybe put a little bit more generalities. Oh, we want it to be pedestrian friendly and rely on the board to go through working with consultants and architects to come up with that versus 40R. When we
have
did
to
it in
identify.
Grafton, we used pictures. This is what we're doing. Here's what we want things to look like. We actually gave them images of different types of development that met some of our development scenarios that we really wanted to see on a specific site. So it requires a lot more upfront, but you are right in that the discretion that maybe the board wants, it's nice for the board to have that. The opposite side is on the risk. From a developer standpoint, that's a lot of uncertainty versus
Right.
they can just unleash the engineers and architects and say, here's what they want, design it, and make sure the board likes it.
I mean, to me, I like the idea of defining everything at the beginning, because also, boards change. I mean, this way we know exactly what we're gonna get.
Can you bring us in what you did in Grafton?
Yeah.
Maybe we should at least take a look at it.
Yeah,
Yeah, see how it feels. The issue with this one is gonna be, like I said, we're gonna wanna tweak it and put senior housing out there, try to amenity centers. If we could put that all into a 40R,
yeah.
you know? The only problem we gotta run into is how we're gonna sell it. Townspeople in Littleton have generally been planning boards in charge of it, and not that they're crazy about us, but at least the local townspeople take care of it. This is a state regulated,
But if we tell them, if we can show them, look, here are the restrictions, or here are
to show the benefit.
parameters.
The benefit would be
that we're gonna get money too.
funding, yeah.
And does the funding have to be used or in that area, or it can be used for anything?
It's unrestricted.
It's so that could be a selling point.
One of the main
Right.
concerns is always like, oh my God, we're gonna have all this influx of kids into the school system. So it helps compensate some of those so that you take the average per pupil cost, what you generate in tax revenue. And the idea is that you basically bridge that delta.
Right, okay.
So the state pays you every year that delta?
It's a one-time,
One
it's a
time?
one-time payment, split into two.
Mhm.
One when you do the zoning and the second one when you realize units.
But we wouldn't get that if we
Right.
did a special permit.
Right.
So how much did Grafton get?
We adopted the zoning, and right now, because we purchased the property from DCAM, we're completing that PNS process. They're gonna be buying what we bought for $1. They're gonna be buying from my former town, I can't can't say us, for, I think it was 1.8 million. And then that's going to be based off of, now this is the hard thing, is that the 40R does require DHCD approval, but as long as you're sort of following the standards in 40R as well as adopting guidelines, they don't have any issues with it. But what they will do is say, here's what we recognize always, they say 20 units per acre, here's your developable area, that's what your 40S payment is based off of.
Mhm.
You could negotiate with the developer and say, well, they're going to build in this section 25 because 20 is the minimum. You could go over, but DHCD, the 40S payment, only going to recognize the 20. So there's flexibility in that. You can say, you know what, we, for whatever reasons, we're negotiating with the development team and like, well, we like 25 and then we can do these other things, you know, maybe set aside more affordability or different types. But increasing up to 25 units per acre, that's not going to change the 40S payments. It's basically capped. So they're still going through that. We had, when I was finishing up there, we had already gone through town meeting, adopt the 40R bylaw or design guidelines, and then we're doing the RFP process. But we had like all the design guidelines that actually, outside of Barrett, Dodds or Flinker, we had hired them to do all that design work and come up with the design standards. So, which are probably been used a bunch of times for some other towns as well.
Yeah. So how much money then is Grafton, back to Mark's question, how much money are they gonna get?
Not knowing, because for them, they recognized us at about 157 units, not knowing what then the sale price is and what the tax revenue is. That's the hard thing, to know what that is, because then it's really based on the tax revenue
Oh, okay.
of that, and then
But
what
like
the kids
guesstimate,
cost.
what do you think? Like, what's the range?
But I thought the state formula for the first payment was $3,000 per unit
Oh, I should have explained, because we already had a 40R
district.
for a mill development back in 2008. We couldn't capture that.
Correct, for this.
So it's once we actually build.
Right,
So,
right. So
Yeah.
for this, Littleton could anticipate
Yep.
$3,000 per unit.
Yep.
Yeah, per apartment.
Because you haven't done that yet.
Right.
Yeah.
So we're looking at 150 apartments.
450.
400,000.
Yeah.
So it's not,
Not huge, but I think it certainly would look good to residents. The
Yeah.
fact that, look, we're gonna get this money and here's what it could be used for,
Exactly.
which we couldn't do with the special permit. So Maureen, is your feeling we should go for the 40R?
yeah, over the last year and a half, I've pivoted toward that. Yeah.
I thought you could request, if you do a 40R in the town, you can ask for it somewhere else as well. Because weren't we gonna do the
No.
40R down at Monarch Drive where the hotel was gonna go and everything else, they were gonna come in and do a friendly 40R.
That would have been a zoning district set there, and you can set multiple 40R
Yeah, you
districts,
can
so
have
you just
multiple.
won't get the initial payment.
Right.
You
No, I'm
won't get
just-
payments
but-
for that.
If we do it here,
You can
another
get,
developer, you come in and argue.
No, it would still require going to town meeting to then do another property, but also that expansion would also have to get approved by DHCD. So,
so for talking about it here, if we do around the train station and get that past town meeting, and then the next you want to consider Taylor Foster Street intersection, 40R, or expanding the 40R district to include that area, you would take that to town meeting.
Right.
Then I'm at a loss for whether there would be another payment.
there isn't, that's why I was making the disconnect, because we had already done that in
It's a
2008.
one shot deal.
Yes.
It's when you first, the carrot to adopt 40R. They're assuming once you've adopted it, the next time you use it, because you like the taste of the carrot. Because otherwise, the other option is basically sort of doing what you're saying and doing a special district, which, you know, the board is familiar with. Build in either residential special permits, you could have special permit for concepts that then move into more of a site plan review process as long as it's consistent with design guidelines. That was, if anyone's familiar with the Wayland Town Center commercial and residential project, that's what we did there when I was there. So we approved a concept plan that didn't get into specifics, and then site plan review for really once you got into individual phases.
I think we should do 40R. Mark, what do you think?
I think we need to think about it. It's only number 2. We need to think about it. I think we should definitely look at it. Absolutely.
I don't know enough to have an informed opinion of that.
Because
One way or the other.
we have to make that decision before we can really move forward, right?
No, we have to make that decision before we bring it to the
Yeah.
town.
Right, but okay, so I'm just trying to kind of visualize a process here, getting to the town. So we're gonna talk to the developers, I mean, to the property owners. Then what else do we need to do?
I've heard design guidelines. Do
Yes.
we want to start laying out what it
Yes.
would cost to have design guidelines developed for this area, whatever this area
And would
is?
we talk to, who would we talk to?
I would recommend we reach out to UTL.
Good, yeah, that's what I was thinking. Yeah.
UTL, Dodson Flinker also does that kind of work.
And just do an RFP,
Well,
or what do you?
we don't have to because it's design guideline work.
We still have any money left for this?
A little bit.
I mean, that's where you can be really specific and just do requests for qualifications and just, ask for
Or
examples and.
Right, and pick.
And pricing.
We'll have a certain amount of money that we can spend,
Okay,
so.
and what do we just say, can you do it for this amount of money?
I'm not knowing what.
Go through the procurement process.
On the procurement side, we don't have to worry about it because then that design work falls out. We can just basically use best
Whoever we want.
practices, make sure that we're happy with who we want.
Mhm.
So we're fine on that side. If you wanted to just continue with utility because you have that experience, experience with them, then you go directly to them. We don't have to go out and reach
Well, wouldn't it make
out to
more
people.
sense just from, and again, I'm just coming out from a business perspective, wouldn't it make more sense to ask, I don't know, 2 or 3 people for,
That's where at least Util and then Dodson.
yeah, and if
because
there's
they-
a third one,
They
maybe.
also then know about this. It becomes a question as far as like, I've used the same planning consultants on like subsequent projects just because we built up a relationship. They know the process, they know what Ford's looking for. When it's like brand new, totally
I
from
see what you're
scratch,
saying,
it's like,
yeah.
oh,
Yeah.
we'll just
Yeah, yeah,
go
yeah, you're
because
right.
maybe someone
Yeah,
else
you're right.
lines up.
I mean, I really was impressed with Teal. with the
But
work
then we
they did.
use util did this, right?
No, Dodson
That's
Flinker.
Dodson, but yeah,
So we use util.
no,
No, this was part of the station area study.
yeah,
Judy Barrett and her sub was Dodson.
Util is phone-based.
yeah.
Right,
home-based,
right.
yeah. I was
And
really
they are
impressed with them.
They are prepared to help with this because we have some funding remaining under the EEA planning assistance grant,
Right, yeah, it's true.
but they were.
Yeah, I really liked them.
And that's where one of the main things is be able to ask them, hey, have you worked on design guidelines? That also include a illustrative component because going into town meeting, you need that. You
Yeah.
need to see-
We need the
This is what the design guidelines
Yeah.
mean. This is what we're
Right,
looking for. And also it provides that direction for the developer to then say, yeah, I can do that. And sometimes depending on your relationship, that developer may say, here, I want to get some initial feedback as far as how we interpret your design guidelines. So.
Okay, so Lauren, you'll reach out to them.
Yep.
Okay, so then what's the next thing? Next step?
Why don't we plan on the meeting when we want to meet again?
No, I want to understand, humor me for a minute, I want to understand what are the steps we need to take to get to town meeting?
Okay, so property owners, design guidelines.
We have to identify the district.
Mhm.
We have to decide whether we're gonna go special permit
Right,
or
right,
get what we get. We're
Right.
working through that.
right.
We have to decide the density that we want and what we actually want out there. We want townhouses and.
Well,
tiny
and
homes,
that we've
senior
kind
houses.
of, yeah,
We have to
Right.
narrow that all down. Obviously, the connection is critical for
Yes.
this. Next thing we need to do is come up with a rendition of build-out scenario that's reflective of what we've decided to do.
And we have a leg up on some of that because we also have the sketches from the last couple of proposals for the long site.
right, okay.
And then we need to.
We can merge
start
that.
working on the bylaw, however we decide we want to approach it.
Okay,
And then we get a rough draft. We're gonna start holding public hearings and hopefully we're ready by the spring.
okay.
It's tight, but it can be done.
Because Judy had provided a rough draft of the
Yeah.
40R.
Right.
At least I'm looking to see, sort of like how that's done. The only thing did she send along separately, like draft design guidelines or?
Mm-mm.
No, we were to get a little more input from Dodson and Flinker on the background for these sketches here. How many total units he had in mind when they sketched those.
Yeah, another thing is that probably even reaching out to the MBTA may be helpful, because here they are identifying in their sketch some sort of like maybe complementary additional development. The team will allow for, as long as they're not really being asked to pay for it, they will allow for means and building on their sites, but it may necessitate incorporating additional parking onto the adjacent parking on their sites to offset.
I think that's part of what we were talking about, expanding the parking lot anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So bringing them to the table would be
because
really
weren't we even
important.
talking at one point about even a multi-story parking?
That's
with
how, I
something
believe
on
that's how
top?
Mr. Long got involved in the first place.
Yeah.
That's what he built.
Yeah,
So he could talk to Nordland, and Nordland would talk to him about putting a parking garage.
yeah,
And that's how I think he got involved as far as buying it. Because he built it all day long. I think he would love to put a parking garage out there.
Right, but
I don't think.
T funding.
Funding
for
is
that
too expensive.
Yeah.
I don't remember what the number
I think it's,
was.
I remember $10,000 a space.
so you think even given the governor's interest in this, that we couldn't,
They're not gonna pay for it.
yeah, okay,
Parking garage.
They don't have any money.
They're not gonna pay.
okay,
Mhm.
It wasn't one of the proposals, we heard early on that we're gonna build the parking garage, then they're gonna lease it to the MBTA for 100 years or some crazy thing. And when Doug first came before us, wasn't that what he was trying to sell? Another 100 parking spaces and sell it to the MBTA.
Mhm.
But then we heard the MBTA wasn't interested anyway.
Right, and that's when it became very apparent that their funding was not available.
They're not gonna build it, they don't wanna own it. Those kids are not.
could they build, could a developer build it underground parking and then build apartments on top?
You could, sure.
It's expensive.
It's expensive, yeah.
But there's 34 acres on the long site, and,
That's
some
all you see
wetland
in
areas,
Boston
but
now.
there's,
Yeah,
Seaport, that's it, that's
Yeah,
all we do.
yeah.
Everything's going down.
yeah, I would think, I mean, why
But it's
not?
wicked expensive though.
Yeah.
That's the infrastructure they need in order to build the buildings, because they're taking all parking lots.
Yeah,
You remember the Seaport? when it was-
Oh, God,
when the,
yeah. yeah,
Anthony's. used to
Yes,
be-
oh,
it was
yeah,
all
oh,
parking
yeah.
lots.
yeah,
You could drive for miles for parking lots. There's not, I do work in a couple of buildings at Seaport. There's no parking.
Yeah.
You can't find any parking. Ridiculous.
that's crazy.
Anybody watching us? We
No,
still
we're
live from Littleton. Yeah, so, yeah, you could, but it's just too expensive.
Okay,
And a flat parking lot, we put pavement on, that's the cheapest and easiest way to go.
yeah,
And this isn't like, I mean, not that it's not high demand, it is high demand, but nobody's there watching it. It's,
Yeah.
it's kind of, pay as you go kind of thing.
if you can't have like also after hour either for resident parking or other business, and it's only relying on the commuter
Yeah.
revenue, yeah.
Anyway, so moving back to your thing, so that brings us to, where do we get to? So then we have the public hearings and we go a couple of meetings and get it ready, we bring the town meeting and then see what happens.
Okay,
We do have a lot of stuff already done for it. You know, it's just how big we want to make it, and, you know, how much of a gamble we are and how much we want to try to bite off. I think stopping it would do.
yeah, I do too. So I think it sounds like we're all in favor of that.
Because that's what makes sense.
Yeah.
So that we'll start there, see how
Yeah.
everybody feels about that, and then work our way up a little
Yep.
further.
I agree. So then it gets back to what you were saying, when do we set our next meeting?
So Joe, you get us the stuff from Grafton?
Yep.
And
Yep.
we want to do it in a couple of weeks?
Yeah.
What do you want to do
Yeah.
every couple of weeks?
Yeah,
Well, we're all on multiple boards right now, so it's kind of.
I really like this time. I like 5:30, since we're all working here in this area. It's certainly easier for you
Wednesday's a
too,
little
right?
tough for me. Wednesday's my getaway, try to get to the Cape.
Oh, okay. Thursday we have planning board
We
meetings.
could still do it early, well, time to play about 6:30, we can still do it before that.
Yeah.
We
Yeah,
can do
yeah.
that, yeah.
Yeah. So you're gonna contact.
Or Tuesday, all right. Tuesday, the only tough, what's wrong with Wednesday, and it's just for me, I try to go down to the Cape, because my girlfriend's quarantined down there. So I go down there, she does my payroll, I pick payroll up, I stay there Wednesday night, and then I go to Norwell, my job there, Chestnut Hill, my job there, Waltham, my job there. So now, they either have to jump in my car or go down here and go down there, pick up payroll, stay down there. You know, it'll be dark.
Oh, yeah.
I'm afraid of driving in the car.
I'm afraid of the dark. No, I mean, I'm flexible.
I don't care.
You know,
So it has
except
to be
for-
Wednesday, I'm fine.
No, except for planning board. I mean, you know, I live here, I work here. I mean, it doesn't matter.
I don't care.
So-
I mean, I have to go on Wednesday. But 5:30 is fine with me.
Yeah, I like 5:30. Okay, all right.
We want to do it early, we want to do like 5, because they're here till 4:30 anyway, you're killing time till
I can do
5:30.
5.
Killing time.
Yeah, I
So
see.
you're sitting in the lounge having cigarettes, right?
Yes, I'm trying to picture Mark.
Anyway, I don't care. 5:30.
5, it depends on the day. Some days I can't do 5 because of work.
Okay, let's pick a day.
Or we reach out to Chuck and see if we can do. And then we look at maybe.
What do you wanna
the
shoot
next
for?
We need to decide maybe.
Two-
In 2 weeks, like
Weeks,
the
what's in-
23rd is 2 weeks from today.
Yep.
And I can do that. Yeah, 5:30.
That sounds good.
Yeah.
Okay, and what do you want to try to do at that meeting?
We need to think
Look
about
at Grafton.
40-hour or conventional, we need to kind of
Yeah,
spend some time on that. Maybe we'll have a little bit of both of us.
Grafton. Want to see what you did for Grafton.
Maybe we'll have reached out to some of the landowners and see what their thoughts are.
And can we make a decision on Util versus
Sure.
the other company?
Let's see
Does
what,
that give you time to get? I mean, I know who I want to have, but you know.
I'll check with them on their schedule.
Okay,
So if they're overbooked, then we'll know.
okay.
And we just do Zoom for the next one?
I can come in, or you prefer Zoom or?
I prefer face-to-face.
I do too.
It's
I
way
don't
easier
mind
to
coming
talk.
here.
Yeah,
If you want to
Yeah.
do this, I'm fine with this. If
Yeah.
it's along with 6
but you
of us,
got, yeah, I mean, I'm fine with this.
I think it's better than the in room.
I agree.
And I like our regular meetings on Zoom because it's, I can smoke cigars and really want to do it. But if we're gonna do this. we're gonna
Yeah, I
do
think
this.
to see maps and, yeah, and if you're gonna bring stuff from Grafton and,
Yeah, we'll do it here.
Okay.
okay.
We need to bring our laptops still. for this.
I can bring
We
mine.
probably should, right?
I don't think, I'm gonna listen to it just to make sure it's picking up worst case. You know, for the next meeting, we can then have Mike or work with them on something else, but.
I can bring my laptop.
Well, I mean, realistically, all we're using this is to capture you guys. We're sort of cut out. And
We can't see.
so that at least I'm we've both been checking just to make sure no one's joined in on and stuff like that, so, it doesn't have to be all high production.
Transparency.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
I'm not doing anything away from anybody.
Yeah.
Okay.
Do we want, we don't want to bring Mr. Lonnie just yet, right? You want to wait a little while for that?
I kind of feel like we need to make some decisions, don't you?
Oh, yeah, we need to find out about the road, that's kind of.
Yeah, and also we can find out who we're gonna use for design guidelines.
Okay.
Even if
Yeah,
you're
yeah.
not making like final decisions saying, hey, we'd like to do this, we'd like to do that, that's where we're leaning, and then getting feedback as far as, well, what were you considering? And seeing as far as like, you may be working with an architect or engineer that has had, say, certain experience that may be beneficial to hear. So none of it until we actually start distributing drafts is really nailed down until that point.
It's all, tell the townspeople, folks who do it, it's all.
Speculation, yeah, okay.
But that's where, I can get out some examples for you guys to take a look at before. And even if we do have the roadway plans, just to see what pedestrian and where Grimes, how that's being realigned, just sort of think about the access there now, because I was looking at it going, you probably don't need to have, it would be ideal to do that as a loop, but you could have a development with potentially 2 curb cuts there. It may not be ideal for separation, but it could probably work incorporating the T, because they're gonna have to be at the gable anyway. So you could have that as a whole development without necessitating going to the
Am I
north.
hearing, two roadways here?
Yeah,
I think they have,
because they have
right,
this one right opposite there,
Mhm.
but then you have the other curb cuts, and if you need to work with them as far as doing parking, you might be able to then come in, and I know conservation
Right,
would
you've got
not
the one
like
crossing. Right.
two crossings,
Mhm.
but you might be able to then enable something.
Right. You've got the commercial there and the one
Yeah.
across there. More residential type.
That's why it's so much easier, so much more palatable.
Okay,
Cool.
great, everybody can go home, have dinner.
I got a CPC article now,
I mean,
CPC meeting.